User-centered design. Week 3. Usability and design principles. Part 1, Nielsen's principles. Learning objectives. 1. To understand the Nielsen principles. 2. To understand several design principles and how they are driven by interface design and interface design organizing content. Why? In Week 1, we've introduced the topic of usability. In Week 2 to 5 we discussed the importance of ways to gather information and feedback from users. What are some principles of interface design? That's what we will look at from this week onwards. Principles of interface design. 1. Nielsen's principles, broad. 2. Often used for testing. 3. Might as well know how you are being tested from the start. 4. Design principles, more specific. Part 1, Nielsen's principles. Who is Nielsen? Developed the most used heuristics for interface design in 1990 with Rolf Mollick. Explains 10 main heuristics released in 1994. Has a consulting group for usability. Why heuristics? These are not specific rules. More like the rule of thumb. They are also not exclusive to one another. Do not make it a habit of pigeonholing usability issues into heuristics. Nielsen's 10 principles. 1. Visibility of system status. 2. Match between system and the real world. 3. User control and freedom. 4. Consistency and standards. 5. Error prevention. 6. Recognition rather than recall. 7. Flexibility and efficiency of use. 8. Aesthetic and minimalist design. 9. Help users recognize, diagnose and recover from errors. 10. Help and documentation. Visibility of system status. Users should always be informed of what is happening behind the scenes, when appropriate. For example, when uploading a file there should be a progress bar. In general, always tell the user what is happening if they have no control. Keyword here is when appropriate and necessary. No need to bombard your users with your server's CPU cycles. Match between the real world and system. The system should speak the user's language and conventions. Example, envelope icons to denote email. If a niche product, make sure to use words that your market acknowledges and uses. Use logical and instinctive phrases and graphics. User control and freedom. Escape hatches for users are important. Allow users to exit state without extended dialogue. However, they should be easily notified by the ramifications of an exit. Example forms and shopping cart. Supporting redo and undo functions. Consistency and standards. Practice using the same words that mean the same thing. Sounds like common sense but rarely applied. Example, exit and log out or even leave. Having a common navigation model helps. Navigation bars suddenly disappearing out of context is quite jarring. Follow platform conventions. Error prevention. Anticipate common mistakes from users and prevent them from using schema or procedures. Example, enforcing number characters for credit card numbers. Delicate use of confirmation dialogues could be useful before a user commits to an action that may be irreversible. Recognition rather than recall. Instructions to use your system should be easily visible and followed. Do not expect your user to memorize specific functions. They probably would after the 10th time executing the same task, but do not take it for granted. Or else there won't be a 10th time. Use layout, graphics, and design to ensure that functions are easily identified. Flexibility and efficiency of use. Allow expert users to use shortcuts. Scaling functionality depending on the user's skills and experience. Novice users may encounter wizards while expert users will be handed accelerators. This makes use of user accounts and settings. Aesthetics and minimalist design. Do not clutter. Every bit of information in dialogues should be vital. Every word, in fact. There are only so many bits of information a user can take in at any one time. You do not want to overwhelm that threshold. Funnel your users, don't blanket them with functions. Recognize, diagnose and recover. So, the old 404, anyone remember that? Not very useful was it, does not tell the user what was wrong, how it could be solved and how to prevent it. Many systems now still have code errors. What happens in Chrome when you could not access a site? Would be great if all websites come with a keep calm and check connection logo somewhere. Error messages should be 1. Phrased in clear and natural language. 2. Precise. 3. Constructive, offer alternatives. 4. Polite, do not intimidate or blame the user. Good error messages help the user to 1. Resolve the problem. 2. Learn more about the system. Help and documentation. Any help function implemented should be easily identifiable, accessed and searched. Nothing is worse than a hidden help function that makes things even more confusing. Use the contextual interface to inform your users of your help sections. Help sections should be brief, to the point and not too large. Heuristic evaluation. Heuristic evaluation, Nielsen and Mollick, 1990, Nielsen 1994, is usability engineering method for finding the usability problems in a user interface design so that they can be attended to as part of an iterative design process. Heuristic evaluation involves having a small set of evaluators examine the interface and judge its compliance with recognized usability principles, the heuristics. No single set of heuristics. Nielsen's 10 famous heuristics are the most popular, but there are also others. Bastian and Scapen created a set of 18 ergonomic criteria. Gerhard Powell's 10 cognitive engineering principles. Connell and Hammond's 30 usability principles. And Smith and Mosier's 944 guidelines for the design of user interfaces, from 1986. Applying heuristics. When you have identified a usability issue that has violated one or more heuristics, you need to assign it a severity. Ranges from 0 equals no problem to 4 equals usability catastrophe. So, you would have a table with all the issues and assign severity. The project manager or persons accountable would assign resources to fix the issues. Caveats. The heuristics are based on expert reviews, that is usually 1 or 2 usability experts making judgment calls. Therefore may be cheap and quick, but may not be accurate and comprehensive. User tests and software performance testing are usually done to corroborate, budget allowing. Heuristic evaluation. Quick and inexpensive. Early feedback. Require usability experts, multiple of them, aggregate the results. Usability testing to find further major issues. Part 2, Design Principles. These have come from Nielsen, derived from his heuristics. These are the important ones. Heuristics are commonly applied on an existing system or prototype. Design principles are used to inform the system's interface and information architecture. 1. There are many and they form the core of a designer's toolkit. 2. Here are a few. Important to identify the right one depending on context, that is your target users and what type of system. Again, these are guidelines, not rules. The principle of proximity. A Gestalt principle of perception. Also known as the grouping principle. Users tend to quickly assume buttons that are near each other do specific but related things. Example, a button right next to one labeled yes would be highly expected to be no, not Rick's special key. This goes for navigation and any contextual interactions. Visibility and visual feedback. Prominence. Opacity. Typeface. Color, contrast. Prominence is also another tool you can use to bring items that are important to the fore. Opacity. Opacity is now used very often to bring items into focus. Typeface. If used properly, can be a powerful tool to bring attention or to funnel users' limited attention to the important information or to key interaction points. Also influences readability. Colors and contrast. Higher contrast or brighter colors will draw more attention. Affordance. Making it easier to do things more intuitively. Example, USB socket heads. How many of you still struggle with which way is up? Have you noticed that most USB heads have a symbol etched into one side to show that? Affordance's constraints. In contrast, make it harder for users to do the wrong thing. Example, the 3-prong electrical plug. Quite difficult to stick it in the wrong way. Use confirmations to actions. Status. Always indicate that the system is processing or is awaiting input from the user. Which Nielsen's heuristic was this again? The trick is to do this without overwhelming the rest of your system's interface. Consistency. Easily overlooked. Which Nielsen's heuristic was this? Be consistent in terms of interaction placement, colors, and type of interface. Do not keep switching your navigation bar from left to right, for example. Design laws. Hicks law. Hicks law. A mathematical formula that models how long it will take users to choose the item they want from a menu of items. More items, slower decisions. Increasing the number of choices will increase the decision time logarithmically. Fitts law. Fitts law. A mathematical formula that models how accurate users will be when moving the cursor between objects, e.g. buttons, on screen. Further apart, less accurately users will be able to move. It's faster to hit larger targets closer to you than smaller targets further from you.